Filters done, and we are ready to roll. Ready to get it on. You know it. Got the big weekend mug. Let's see how Misa came out, shall we? I got her armbands painted. I sloppily painted them because I masked it. I hope that didn't create a problem. We're going to find out in a second, aren't we? As we start to peel away the layers. Here's hoping. Feels dry. Let's do it. A little bit of bleed, but I can fix that. Right. Hey, Peter. Good morning. What's going on, brother? Missed you last night. You actually came up in conversation, Peter. You actually came up in conversation. And I'm not going to tell you anything further than that. I'm just going to keep you guessing. All right. Ooh, where's the start? Where do I start? Where do I begin? There we go. Yeah, so I missed. Yeah, dude, probably had other stuff to do. No worries, no worries. And I'm kind of kidding with you a little bit. I think I had bleed on this one here. Let's see, let's see. This one's going to be interesting. Maybe not. Sorry, friends. Give me a second here. I just want to get this thing at least off of here. No, they came out good. Phew. Yeah, the conversation last night was actually at the end. We started talking about. It always seems like I start these little things. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's my nature just to kickstart some conversations. I have no idea. But the conversation came up of how I like this thing has just been pissing me off. Hey, Nick, and I needed to do something else. And one of the guys, the traditional guy, said, "Oh, so are you going to build something based on something real?" You know, and I said, "No, I worked on this Gundam." And then the whole conversation came up. You know, the OG Gundam, right? And then the conversation was, well, it is based on something real. It just happens to be based on a cartoon. And in fact, this model here, as I mentioned, actually represents and looks like what was on the cartoon. It's a fairly accurate piece. And of course, that kind of started the conversation, and not in any kind of confrontational way. The conversation of, The guys who build traditional models because they want to be very accurate to something that existed, and then other folks who do it differently. But even one of our stalwarts, like one of our traditional, like really traditional guys, a guy by the name of Aura, who's a fabulous modeler and an incredibly articulate person. Even he said, because I brought up the conversation, we all build based on something that we're passionate about. He goes, absolutely. He goes, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like this is a completely open-ended hobby. Was literally what he was getting at. And anyway, and then of course, and then the example that came up was, the extremity of taking like the art and going even further as like who's that guy that we have who builds, like who custom builds stuff, and like the us guys who knew you said, oh, Peter, yeah, that guy, yeah, exactly. Is it still a Gundam? I don't know. Is it? It's from Gundam. Are you, Nick? Are you trying to just say something that I misunderestimated what this thing is? Misrepresented? It's from Gundam. Lord Almighty. You picky people, you. Anyway, good conversation about it. Good conversation. All right, I did get some bleed in some places here, so this will be interesting. I got to get some of this stuff off of here later. I cannot see. Sorry, guys. I'm actually trying to find where. Oh, man. It's funny. On this side, the sleeves look good. On the inside, they don't look all that great. I'm gonna have to do some touch-up work later, and I'm fine with that because, frankly, I'm not gonna kill myself on this. But in any case, that's it was good conversation towards the end. If we had a, it's not a long meeting. Went about 2.5 hours, which is normally pretty short for our Zoom sessions. It was good. So I'm not. Build something real is kind of a funny somehow. Well, that of course came up with just asking. I thought the Gundam was always the good guy suit. Yeah, the gun. What did I give a? I'm sorry, Nick. Did I say something? Maybe I said something that was inappropriate or wrong or incorrect or something. Something that'll send me to hell. Um, yeah, the Gundam's always. I take it back. The Gundam's always been the good guys until we got to a few other episodes. 0083, the Gundams at least initially were not. In in Zeta, they were not. They became. Is it really a Gundam? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Gundam, Zaku, it's all the same. Look, this is a guy who loves the show, and it's all the same. There's a judgment baked in there. Yeah, I think there is a judgment, but I think it was a good conversation because one of the conversations that came up was, and this is by a couple of other members about the concept of what they call Luft 46. Tell them it's real because they can go to see a real one in Japan. Never even thought about saying that. Yes, there have been some real examples, haven't there? So it does exist, doesn't it? Good point, Nick. I got to remember that one for next time. Again, just so we're on the same page, there was no contentiousness to the conversation. It was just more interesting. But one of the conversations that came up, particularly with the guy who asked me about, what are you going to build something real? I said, what about Luft 46? That's their words, and that's basically anything that was like a paper tank, a paper plane, something that was only put down on paper and never produced. And their thought was, well, that's not real. And then the conversation also came up, but what about like the Starship Enterprise or Star Wars stuff that may be based on models, which are kind of real. And then it became a lot vague. So I think what's interesting is, again, I think the reasons why we build are very personal. And I think this is an important distinction to make, right? All Gundam should be allowed in the armor category. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Would I agree with that? Here, Nick, I'm gonna go one more extreme than that. I don't give a shit. Because honestly, in terms of competitions and shit, I don't care. I just want to see your models. I don't even care if you know, who cares? Oh, this is a a propeller and pre 1939 plane, and that's a post 19. Who the fuck cares? Honestly, competitions. Richie, good morning, brother. What's going on? But I do have to say that the distinction is that everybody builds for a certain reason, but even the guys who have specific so I'm getting a squeaky sound, trying to figure out where it's coming from. Even the guys who build for a specific reason, like they want to be historically accurate, are completely like, build whatever you want. And that, I think, is the most important answer right there. Some people come to this from an interest in history. Yeah, absolutely. I'm here to poke the bear. I love it, Nick. Poke, poke, poke. As you should. What's a good word, Richie? Is it you and your dad only this weekend? So, it's just like I said, it comes down to, once again, and this is like the conversation that I think is going to have to happen over the coming years, particularly in terms of what does accuracy mean? What does reality mean? You've been building the Starship Enterprise for the longest time. You've been building Star Wars craft for the longest time. It isn't real. Hey, Joe, good morning. And frankly, if somebody scratches, something like an onion head, and it looks as fabulous as it does, and the workmanship is flawless, what does that mean? In my estimation, it means this is where I think, IPMS usually gets vilified, and I think it's a strength. It's construction and finish first. And then storytelling. If you want to go down that path, then give me a good story. Accuracy? Who the fuck cares? Yep, I've been up since 4 a.m. My body is its own alert. Oh, yeah. Dude, you've trained your body, right? Because what time do you have to be at work, Richie? So, anyway. And I do want to just say again, it's like the conversations last night were not in any way, shape, or form contentious. I think I did a little damage there. Yeah. I am going to have to go in and do some touch-up work on this later. But it's actually cleaner than it was before. It just needs... Just needs a little touch-up. Yeah, those bands are cleaner. I only wanted to do story if I'm sick and Columbo reads it to me. Oh, really? Okay. Good morning, Ray, by the way. Even the oldest guys there grew up with Star Trek, but probably has no frame of reference for something like Gundam. That's exactly the point, right? And especially considering Gundam is based on a cartoon, which isn't like a real model or something from real science fiction. 4:30 a.m. to open up. Yeah, dude, of course your body's like, time to get up, son. I was sitting at my workstation for 6 hours. Well, Richie, I'm hoping, and you were busy, I'm hoping sitting there, we were actually doing something cool. What were you constructing? I'm selling models now. My kids show Picture on the front of the box, a brick of plastic in the box, no instructions because no wrong way to make it. Exactly. A hell of a day down at the garage yesterday. Yeah, Ray, how did it go? How did that repair work go for go for, I guess, to the customer? What is real science fiction? Yeah. That's the point, exactly. The point of all of this is, and the one of the comments that I think both Tom Flaherty and I brought up also is, what if you have a tank or a plane that no longer exists, meaning that that it's that there's no remaining version of that thing on this planet. It's destroyed, gone. They're out of commission. Think about ships that become, like I mentioned, the Titanic, or think about ships that are destroyed afterward. They don't exist anymore. The only way you can, and if you're building a new mold based on that, aren't you building that based on plans, drawings, photographs, whatever? Well, what's the difference between a photograph and a sketchbook? You're still building it off something that isn't theoretically real. It may have been real, whatever real is. Anyway, philosophical conversations. Customizing 2 kits at once. At once, nice. Not kit bashing, but customizing. I sent you a picture where I was at. I tried watching. Yeah, I saw something come through, Ray, on my laptop yesterday while I was at work, and it wouldn't let me see it, so I got to check it out later. Yesterday was a long day, by the by. Is it not real because it's animated? I think that's the argument from people. I think, you know what the argument is? I think the argument isn't so much that they're against it. I think the argument is that they don't understand. It's outside of their realm of understanding. The PM and IPMS is the unifying thing. Subject and appropriate doesn't matter. And in fact, Peter, I would challenge you even on the P part of that, because I believe, and I haven't gone through the entire issue yet, but the new issue of the IPMS USA Journal actually has a paper model. So does the P stand for plastic, paper? Does it need to be there? You know? Have to take a look at that later. So yes, and I've seen one of the first competitions, IPMS competitions I went to. It was PatCon back in 2019. One of the coolest models I still remember to this day was the parrot, which was a paper parrot. Somebody made a parrot out of paper. It was fabulous. My hope, my long-term hope, is that scale modeling moves more into becoming a venue for creativity rather than purely historical accuracy, building things that were, and I'll use the term, real world. It's changing. It's coming. Kit bashing and customizing. I may do another one of these flowing since I've been on this medication for anxiety. It triggers ideas. If that sounds right. No, that sounds great, Richie. So, Richie, is this kind of like helping like creative juices to kind of come through? And if that's the case, Richie, that's fabulous. PS4 is there to keep out the wooden guys. Well, I would say, guess what? We've seen wooden models. And here's the other thing, honestly. So let's say you build a model of a historical ship out of plastic, and it's based on something that's wood. What's the matter? Who cares what the material is anymore? I mean, I guess you go down a slippery slope. At what point does it become something more like an art group rather than a scale modeling group? I don't know. Separate the motor and the transmission. The whole front cradle subassembly has to get dropped out. Oh, that must have been fun. Hey, that's awesome. How's Julio doing? I haven't seen Julio in a few months since one of our last Zoom meetings. Region 1 Zoom meetings. That's awesome. Yeah, next time please say hi for me. Say hi to the whole gang for me next time you see them, Richie. Yeah, Richie, next year, I think things could be a little interesting. My older, and I say this because I think it's going to allow me a little bit more regional travel to go to do different things. Next year, my older daughter is living with me in here at home until, because she's working locally. My wife is still going to be up in Maine. I'll be heading up to see her quite often as I can. And then my younger daughter's in college. Weekends become mine in some ways, except for when I'm heading up to Maine. So no scratch building allowed in IPMS if that's the thought process. Well, that's a good question. I guess I think scratch building, if historically has been if you're building something that hasn't been made in a plastic model that you make your own. Yes. So a jet fighter or some crazy plane or some one-off tank or something like that. Yeah, it helps a lot. I haven't been this calm in years. I'm so sharp focused. That's great, Richie. Richie, I'm so happy for you. This is where it's exciting when you hear somebody feeling like I'm feeling like a level of creativity bubbling forward. That's awesome. Empty nester. Kind of like. Not fully, but close. But it'll be good because my older daughter will be focusing probably more on her skating. So, her free time will be going that way. I mean, we'll be obviously connecting quite a bit, but her free time will be going that way. And that'll give me more time to do some scale model work, which I'm kind of excited about. All right. So the sleeve markings definitely came out better. There's going to be need for cleanup. And that's fine because I see I've got some places to touch up with white anyway. But so far, pretty happy with how this came out. It's definitely cleaner than before. Not perfect. There was bleed. I mean, it definitely got bleed under the mask. I hand brushed this. I didn't airbrush it. That's why. So you're seeing George coming to hang with I think that's a very strong possibility, Richie. Take a day, go down there, do like a Friday night hangout with you, with the boys. Head over. I really want to go hang out with Bob and Julio and the IPMS Brooklyn guys. I've got a mad respect for what they're doing down there. I think they're one of the more forward-thinking groups that I've seen. Obviously, hang out with you guys. Go maybe do a trip into one of the Bandai stores or something like that. Of course, absolutely. But again, more importantly, just to see you guys again. On your turf. There we go. These are the new tweezers I just picked up. I've got to tell you, except for them being like ridiculously long, these are fabulous. And I think I don't know, I'm not sure what they're charging now, but on AliExpress I paid like $4.71 for them. $5 worth every penny. I love these things. Got the letter yesterday. Jocelyn made the Junior Honor Roll Society. Ooh, and has a special presentation that we have to go to. We have to go to. They're making us go. That's awesome, Joe. Congratulations. And you should be proud. Hey, Julius. Good morning. How are you? Wicked early good morning to you, brother. I'll answer your question in just a second. Yeah, definitely we can set something up. Just got to give us, oh, at least a month's notice. Oh, yeah, trust me, it's going to be a planned thing. It'll be a planned thing. Stuff like that kind of a travel is always going to have to go into a calendar. The only thing I know for certain is like in January, February next year, we're going to be going down to Florida to go see my daughter in actually two places. We'll be going to Maryland and then down to Florida for collegiate level dance competition. She made the dance team. We're excited for her, and that's when they have their competitions. So Julius, I my younger daughter is going to college. My older daughter is living here as she works locally, and my wife is no longer living here because of her job taking her up to Maine. With my younger daughter being gone, it's going to free up a lot of time for me to do other stuff. Now, within reason, trust me, I'm going to be heading up to Maine quite a bit too, because I actually love hanging out with my wife. This wasn't a choice to separate. This is a choice of necessity based on job. But oof, definitely got some leaking back here. This again, this is one of those things where I've enjoyed working on this model a lot. I would never enter this in a competition. Would I show it? Of course. I'm proud of it. I mean, I would never. I mean, I've seen some absolutely fabulous miniature work. This is not it, but it's been fun to try. Okay, I got it. Is that a model or a figure? Yes, it's a model of a figure or a figure of a model. I don't know, whichever one it is. But it was a model. It needed to be assembled. And that actually, Nick, furthering our earlier conversation, you bring up a very interesting point. If you 3D print a statue, is that a model? You know, Little A Plamo, who is and I'm pretty sure Richie knows who he is. Um, he is a fabulous painter, really gifted kid. Met him when I was at, I've known him for a number of years, but I finally got a chance to meet him at MosquitoCon last year. And his workmanship, his finish work on his Predator models, his Alien models, and just some other stuff is fabulous. But he's literally 3D printing, and he's actually started his own 3D printing stuff. But if you're not assembling it, doing anything with it, what happens, right? If it's here it is, it's 3D printed in this one shape. All you're doing is cleaning it up a little bit and painting it. Maybe it's got multiple parts to assemble. I'm not sure that it may. What if you don't? What if you print like, Austin gave me this? What if I paint that? I didn't assemble anything on this thing. It's like what came first, chicken or egg? I say protoplasm. Nice, Joe. Is that the person that made Squonk? I have no idea what that means. What's that? That's not a model. But I could paint that and put it on a table at an IPMS show, including, if I'm correct, nationals, and I could compete with it. I don't know. At some point, I may have to actually go through. I've been reading the rules on accuracy. I may actually have to go through the rules of what constitutes a model. Hold it a second. I think I know what the problem is here. I can't be. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure out. I think what I've got is a loose wire here. That's exactly what it is. Where's that wire? Oh, there it is. That's why. May make a popping sound. There it goes. Problem solved. Okay. Squeaky sound gone. If enough people take pictures of George, he'd be a model. That's true. And you can even enter him in IPMS. It would be a 3D printed figure. That's no Gundam boy. Ray, do screenshots count? Nice. In my opinion, if it requires assembly, it's a model. If no assembly, then it's a figure. But figures are entered in IPMS shows. And remember, this is the funny part. IPMS, International Plastic Model Society. So once again, guys, I'm not justifying one way or the other. I personally think it's the days of these very finite rules of what constitutes this, that, and the other are all changing. I'd have to paint you first. That's kind of frowned upon these days, except for Robert Downey Jr. Tropic Thunder. Nice. Anyway, fascinating philosophical conversations we're having here. All right, let me get the cap for this thing. There it should be. I'll show you the model. I'll show you the cleanup. It came out better, but there's still some cleanup work required. They're cleaner. However, if you take a look at the backside, you can actually see it's a little rougher in places. In fact, yeah, I'm gonna have to do both green and white. Yeah, the backsides definitely came out some roughness, but in any case, I'm happy with the way this came out. It's definitely an improvement, and I've just got a lot of cleanup to do on it. And in the end, I'm not entering this in any kind of competition. I'm doing this because I really love this figure. Did you just tell me to look at the backside? Yes, I did. Julius, is scratch building considered modeling? That's a good question. And Nick, why would you think that it is not? Or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. Not what you would think. What is the justification for it not being scale modeling? Model is simply a representation of something. That is correct. It doesn't even have to be a physical thing like an economic model, for instance. Very well put, Peter. I agree with you. A model in terms of it is a manifestation, a physical representation of something that exists. Right. I totally agree. Sorry, are we having these conversations? Hold it. First of all, Julius, if we at what's it, almost 4 a.m. your time, these conversations must be making you fall right to sleep. I mean, these are pretty deep, not because they're boring. It's just that it's like, whew, we got some thoughts going. Of course it is. Oh man, I want to make an economic model for PacCon. I think you should. So, Peter, I'm 100% with you. I think I would say yes, because it's built. Yeah. See, I look at it as, I think conceptually everything is changing. You know, first of all, the introduction of Gundam to the lack of something that is historically accurate. And the reason I say that is if you paint a Gundam in whatever colors, like Formula racing car colors, you're not accurate. But that doesn't mean it's not a model. And it doesn't mean it's not well painted or constructed. You know, one of our, a couple of our guys do that. Robert, who pops in here every now and then, very, very talented painter. And so I only ask because a model to most is something that is available kit print or doesn't exist, like an architectural model of a building that doesn't exist yet. Yeah, exactly. French press. Yeah, French press. Joe, you got that right. Oops, that's some tape. So, I think we've seen a sea change in what has been the traditional view of modeling. And I think it's all for the best. I do. Position is the French press saved me the trip to urban position. All right, let's get some of this stuff out here. Oh, Nick, I'm going to be sanding. I thought you might want to know. I'm just forewarning you. That's all. George, I wish I could. Whoops. George, I wish I could sleep. Getting old sucks. I strain my back between my shoulders and laying down. Oh, yeah, yeah, Julius. I've been noticing that too. Like the older I get, the more it's like you just moving a little. Like right now, how I'm sitting. If I just, it could end up being that I'll just move in a certain direction, and the next thing I know, it's like, oh, something just happened, and the next day, I'm just like got this sharp pain in my back. Why? God knows. Anyway, Julius, I'm really sorry to hear that, brother. Hopefully that pain will pass soon. Ouch. And are you taking anything for it? Can you take anything for it? So I built this model. One of the common questions is, where did you get the kit? Who said that? Hold it, Nick. That's a different question. Are people asking you? This getting old stuff is bullshit. Well, yes and no. I agree. Mentally, it's like nothing's really changed. Physically, it's like, oof. I don't like some of these changes. And again, it's at the same time, it is what it is. But Nick, have you been cornered by somebody saying, where did you get that model? FBR Jackie with throwing your fingers back. Now I'm kind of curious. And the reason I say this is I was looking at, I'm slowly going through all of my IPMS USA journals, and invariably, the ones who win the most, yeah, I have been asked. Well, you can go tell them. You can tell them from the president of a local chapter up here in Massachusetts, which probably won't mean anything down in Texas. You can go tell them to go fuck themselves. And the reason I say that is, are they not paying attention? Most of the winners from IPMS national shows, like, was it 3 years ago? The guy who won, scratch built a 3-winged plane from the 20s. I mean, scratch built it. And the diorama. He won in his category, and then he won the overall award. So people question that. I mean, I can certainly say, hey, is that from a model or did you scratch build that? That's one thing. But if they're like, oh, if they're kind of using it in terms of like lording over language, I got a problem with that. Starting to sound like Ken. I spend too much time on my back. Nice. I think it's a mindset with most people that it has to be a kit they go to. Okay. Once again, I think even from a like an IPMS perspective, that's wrong. If they're taking it's not worthy because it is scratch built, it doesn't belong here because it's scratch built, that's wrong. Tylenol only, may go to the doctor. Oh, Jesus, Julius. Wow. Yeah. I'm sorry, Julius. Yeah, maybe I found ibuprofen helps a little bit just because it takes down some swelling and that kind of thing. But yeah, in the end, you're just gonna have to ride. I generally just ride it through. I'm hoping you didn't tear anything. The proper response says is bless your heart. Yeah, exactly, 100%. Never mind it. I think so. But here's the thing, Peter, and this is where I'm kind of like we're kind of pointing out all the problems. Here's the thing. It is changing. It is changing. And I think it's because there is no choice in the matter. You know, with as you wanted to expand into additional categories, whether that's, let's put it this way, Maquet, Gundam, figure painting, Warhammer. These are some of the largest categories out there. Hate to put it this way. All you traditionalists might be into Wingnut Wings kits because they're like, oh, they were the best made biplanes. The majority of people don't give a shit. What about that Jeep that was all scratch built with a tarp that looked like cloth? Exactly, Joe. That's my point. The one that at ValleyCon a couple years back. Absolutely, that model was fabulous. Alternative Tylenol and ibuprofen, but take them before the other wears off. Yep, you can't drop hundreds of dollars on a kit. Right. I think most people who scratch build something like that, it isn't because they can't afford it. I think it's because it's like it doesn't exist and I want to make something of this. And Peter can certainly speak more to scratch building than I can. I mean, I've done customizations, but I've never like fully scratch built something. Peter, I hate you. You're so good. But the point is, yeah, it's like it's as these new categories start to come in, and they come in. This is the funny part. They're coming in not from a traditional side, meaning that, oh, I grew up with IPMS, but I got into Gundam. It's they grew up with, what the hell is IPMS? I started with Gundam or Warhammer or whatever, and I'm building something. Peter, no, no, thank you, Peter. Honestly, I've very much appreciated meeting you, seeing your artwork, and befriending you. I think it's been great. I look forward to talking with you more and more certainly about models, but also about movies. But I think as people are coming in and they're experiencing IPMS, but they're experiencing it you start to understand why there's not necessarily pushback, but why there's I don't understand IPMS. Because they're not coming in understanding what IPMS is all about. Even if it does exist, it's more rewarding as a modeler to scratch build something, not the same as sanding knobs. Oh, I agree, 100%. Taking either scratch building something or making it, I call it making it your own. It's like if you take even an existing model and, okay, I'm going to throw out another one. I'm also fascinated by what is the point of taking a model and going out and buying all this aftermarket shit just to make it as accurate as possible. Like, again, my mindset doesn't work in that way. And that's not to say that it's wrong. But if you're going to go out there and get all of this stuff just to make it as accurate as possible, you're still not building anything your own. You're literally assembling. Where is your creative element in this? Right? Yeah, 100%. You mean like cockpits that you can't see? Or no, actually cockpits you do see, because in many cases they have the planes on the ground and the cockpits are open. But you spend all of this time and all you're doing is, the more money you have, you're literally throwing money at and I'm oversimplifying it. And please, and I hope people who are traditionalists understand, I don't have anything against it. I love seeing well-made models. And if that's your thing, that's fabulous. I'm going to get back to that point in just a second. But if you build a model and you throw all of these things, I'm going to go buy these tank tracks from such and such. I'm going to buy from Fruel Models. I'm going to get these tow cables from Eureka XXL. And you do all of this assembly. And what you're doing is you're trying to add more detail to something, but you're literally taking this stuff and you're assembling it. You're taking a puzzle and you're making it. Whereas on the extreme side, you take a look at what Peter's doing, or you take a look at what, oh God, I forget the guy's name who scratch built that pickup, that Jeep pickup. They're literally having to build everything from scratch, measurements, everything like that, and get everything so accurate. And that level of thought that you're putting in, it's when I think you've definitely crossed over to the realm of art. That's without. I mean, at that point, it's clear. It's not a well. Are we doing a hobby? Are we just are we assembling? Are we doing a craft? I think is the term. Or have we crossed into art? If you're scratch building, you're building art. Sorry, that's just this. I can't see how it could be anything that well it exists in real world. Here's a Jeep, yeah, but you built this thing from scratch. How would that be any different than somebody taking a block of marble and chiseling it to look like a human being? Oh, that's art, right? Anyway, fabulous stuff. What was I was going to say? I was going to make a point. I lost my train of thought. I just hope Peter decides to make the Jaws boat. I think he will. Oh, we'll coerce him. We'll have to poo-poo him at our meeting. Peter, I hear that you're building a Jaws boat. When should we expect to see that? No, that's the nice thing about being president of a club. You can put people on the spot like that. Oh, yes. And to anybody who's saying it, boy, he can be an asshole. I'd say, yeah, I guess I can. Sorry. Soft judging versus open judging. Is there any talk about moving towards open judging? Not at this time. Dun, dun. Exactly, Nick. Not at this time. At the local level, yes. At the national level, probably not. Here's Peter. I'm going to just kind of go out and say this. I don't think whether it's open judging or traditional gold, silver, bronze matters in some ways. I understand that there are some benefits of doing one over the other, but I'm looking at it just from a criteria perspective. I'm looking at it as you're putting something on a table. Let's take a look at that. Let's start with that. One of the things that's always been criticized about, and I don't agree with it, about open judging is that, well, you're rewarding everybody, and the answer is no, because you can actually say, if you got, I'm sorry, not gold, silver, bronze, 1, 2, 3. If you're giving gold, silver, bronze, if you're doing open judging, you can have an honorable mention, and you can have somebody didn't get anything. So the judging system, I don't like it because I think what happens if you come in fourth? That's the only reason why I don't like the current IPMS system. But at the same time, I don't fight that battle, Peter, much because, again, I just don't care. I don't, honestly, as a guy who loves judging, I don't give a shit about competitions. I truly don't. I just love being able to see somebody's work and be able to look at it. And I usually learn something from their work. I pick up a lot of knowledge. I get a chance to talk to somebody about their model in detail, and I focus purely on for me at least, I focus purely on the construction side of it. But likes to judge them. Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't mean I don't like to put my stuff out there. And I've competed. And I think, Nick, I've actually been thinking about this because you bring up a very interesting question. Why is it that I like to judge them? And I think I like to do it because I've seen what happens when you leave it to people who are incapable of understanding what they're looking at, And if you don't have somebody who's at least experienced in the category judging, it's bad. And frankly, it's also, if we're going to have judging, if it's kind of like you have to have it, right? If you're doing an IPMS show, a local show, I honestly don't even know what open judge is. I'm just aware that this is something people seem bugged about. Yeah, I can describe it. Peter, maybe what we can do is just, unless people want to have a conversation about what they are, like the mechanics of it, we can table this for the next time you and I meet. Glad to go over it in detail with you. But But the reason why I do it is because I think that there aren't enough qualified judges out there. And I'm also, in my own way, changing the conversation quite a bit. In that, judges basically do exactly what happened to Austin this last time. Um, let's see, fourth place, you get a coupon for lessons or a coupon on the store, so you get a chance next year. Actually, the funny thing is that, Joe, with fourth, you don't even know. It's kind of like, here's 1, 2, and 3. What about the other 6 models that were absolutely fabulous? Where did they fall in line? Who do you talk to? And this is part of the conversation that I'm getting at. I always, when I do judging, at the end of it, I always say, if somebody wants to talk to me about how you did, I will stay, and I will stay late to go over it, how we came up with what came up. I'm not going to say why yours is better or worse than somebody else's. I'm going to give you critique on what I saw in your model, where you did well and where you could work on something down the road. And that's something that, from what I've heard and experienced, most IPMS judges don't want to do. The draws bow may or may not happen. To be honest, having to be accurate is too stressful. With the sci-fi stuff I do, I make it look real with the weathering, using cues from how real things look. Fair enough. But Peter, you're also working on the sorcerer pickup, right? You're still working on that, I'm assuming. Fourth place and below should get coupon or gift cards to help them get better. Yeah, see, I don't, Joe. I think it's I think we have to be cautious with stuff like that. I would be a great judge. I know nothing about armor, but I know good art, so I won't ding you for accuracy. And frankly, that's how I look at it too. I don't look at accuracy. Oh, this thing has 4 rivets rather than 3. Okay, how have they been laid down? Yeah, and Nick, in many ways, that's kind of what I think we should be moving more towards. I would say to somebody, if they're interested, and this is something I've been reading, you can go to the IPMS Nationals rules, and there is a section on accuracy. I would recommend people reading it. And I'm not saying this because, I'm going to be competing at the national level, but I think it's fascinating to see how IPMS looks at accuracy. And frankly, in a nutshell, they're like, we're not sure how to deal with accuracy. We know we have to, but we don't want to, or we're not sure how to. It's kind of weird. Prize for fourth place and below are those raffle tickets for sale. They need a rivet counters division. I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah, maybe that's exactly it right there, Nick. But I think that judging on its merits, this is, and in fact, what's interesting is I think a lot of the non-IPMS competitions have moved in this direction. See you all another time. Have a great Saturday. And you as well, Julius. I hope you feel better, brother. Oh, damn. That's some shade. Remember, I was and only been at one competition, so not knowing how you play sucks. Well, keeping in mind also that those are the national rules of which you don't have to apply. In fact, when I talked to my local chapter about this is what it says about accuracy, and my guys are like, we never do that. Accuracy? And this is coming from my traditional guys. They're like, we don't deal with accuracy. And they even come up, it's like, we don't have people who are that expert in shit. To be accurate isn't to be a good modeler. To be accurate is you have to know the subject first, right? And then be able to be critical about how close that is to the real thing. Yeah, the truck is happening, but it's still kind of about vibes more than accuracy. Yeah, fair enough. But okay, Peter, can't you apply that same principle to the boat? You don't have to build it 100% accurate. I mean, frankly, I would put it this way, given our conversation here. Why build it accurately? In fact, if you built that boat and it was to whatever level of accuracy you want, and you put Jaws next to it, people are going to be like, that's from Jaws. That's so cool. They're not going to say, well, if I don't remember that being that what do they call that? That crane thing. I think that was more like 11 feet rather than 9. I think you missed it. How does the judge work? Point system? Actually, there is no point system in IPMS Nationals. So, and I think that's the fundamentally the thing. and this kind of comes back to like almost full circle conversation. Why do we build something? You know, we build something because we have fun doing it. Peter, if you want to build a Jaws boat, build it the way you want. There's nothing that, I mean, if your brain is screaming, I have to build it accurately, but I don't want to build it accurately, that's an Asimov thing you're gonna have to try to figure out. But if you're like, I really want to build this thing, but I'm kind of like don't really care too much about the accuracy, then build it. You obviously you brought it up, so I'm gonna assume you have an interest in doing it. Build a shadow box vignette, then black out the glass like a cockpit. There you go. Like a Sherman tank has a cool 30K rivets. Yep. Just don't post it on the RPF because I will hear everything that's inaccurate. Okay. Anyway. Wow. Hot damn. That's been like an hour of this conversation. I love this. In fact, by the way, guys, these conversations are actually helping me quite a bit because I'm right now being in the middle of writing an article on accuracy. It's kind of something that's kind of top of mind to me right now. You know, Austin's experience at ValleyCon really kind of set a lot of the stuff in motion for me. Really has set a lot of stuff in motion. There we go. You know, a lot of the international competitions, the non-IPMS competitions, are open judging. But aside from the open judging, they're looking at it from, you look at the best model on the table, and it's pretty obvious. You'll find the best model on a table in a category, and that becomes your gold. And everything kind of works from that. Are there other ones that are very close to it? Yes, they are. Those are gold. Below that is silver. Below that is bronze. Below that might be honorable mention. And below that is, thank you for competing. Try again next year. It's just that I recognize how much work the Jaws boat will be, and there's so much more stuff I want to. Yep, that's cool. And again, Peter, all good. All good. No one should pressure anybody to build what they should build. Oh, you should build this. Okay, I don't want to build that right now. Thank you. So yeah, Peter, build whatever you want. One of the things that does come up, there is a little bit of latitude, which I think is really this is a hard one. And that is, there is a little latitude in some of these competitions in okay, how's your construction, how's your fit and finish, how well does it look? There is some accuracy involved. Like, is it actually accurate to real world? Not necessarily to that model, but does it look like it's within scale? And that's another conversation. How accurate is something, not to the thing, like how accurate is this thing built to the real thing, but how does it look in scale? You know, is it close to scale? And then I think there's also in some competitions also a little bit of how creative was this thing, like taking into account the vignette, the diorama, you know, separating, you know, if you're going to be bringing a model to a competition, I kind of am starting to buy into this methodology, this mindset. If you bring a model to a competition and it's an extremely well-built model, and right next to it is another extremely well-built model, equal in its finish, but one has a vignette or it's part of a diorama, no offense, that guy wins. These conversations are recorded for quality and peace of mind. Exactly, Joe. You know, the concept of taking, you know, like I get it. A diorama is a different thing. A diorama is usually a much larger thing that incorporates more than just one model. But if you're building a vignette, let's say like you're building a plane that has crashed and you got figures around it and you got a field and everything like that. In theory, from IPMS rules, you only work on the model. You don't look at anything else if you're putting it into the plane category. unless you put it into a vignette category. How do you get the IPMS journal? Is there tiers of membership? Yeah, Peter, it's just basically now you just become an IPMS national member. Right now, it's like 3 years for like $60. I mean, it's pretty cheap. You get the journal, you become an IPMS national member. Um, you know, I personally like to do it because I'm very interested in seeing, I want to be part of the conversation of helping this organization grow at a national level. But you're basically, for your membership, unless you go to nationals, you're basically getting the journal. But you do have to become an IPMS USA member. That's how you get the journal. All right, sorry guys. Just trying to get this seam line removed. How does it come out? Well, they've had a little bit of a transition in publishing, so with editors, but it comes out every, like, you get 6 issues a year, approximately. So for $30, it's actually, that's the normal rate. Now it's, because they just did a 3-year membership thing. It's actually pretty cheap, and it's well done. If you're looking for the people who do produce models in there are doing some really good work. If you're looking for, all the time, like some of the biggest, baddest world-class builders, yeah, you're not going to find them here because it's a club. Basically, it's a club periodical. But I've published twice in there. I will continue. I've stopped on it, but I am going to try to get the my Zaku, I'm sorry, my GM Canon in there at some point. This month's issue has an article by Don Johnson from from Wings and Wheels. He actually wrote an article on how to include Gundam in your competitions if you've never done it. It's actually it's a really well done article. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's like it's definitive, like you must follow these rules, but it's definitely been a very, very good, like, if you haven't done it, here's how you may want to start. I don't know, I'm pretty bad. It took me years to get there, but with enough effort, anything is possible. To get where, Ray? And look at, I know Ray's had bad experiences in the past with, and Ray, I don't want to speak out of turn. I know that you've brought it up publicly here too. You've had bad experiences with, I believe it probably was Wings and Wheels, because of how they viewed, what you're creating as a younger person. And it's like, and it's bullshit. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's bullshit. I look at this and I'm gonna maybe change the conversation, and I don't mean to. It's not meant to be a political conversation, but this is like one of the things, like, you want to change an organization, you change it from within. You can't change it from without. And I feel very much like there's a number of younger leaders or more forward-thinking leaders, many of them younger, that are trying to move the needle on IPMS here particularly. And I think that's going to happen. And by the way, I feel I've talked to a few people, having been in regional meetings. I do believe that at the national level, IPMS USA is understanding that they need to transition. It's just how. How do you get a membership in some ways that's kind of stuck in its ways to do it? And sometimes it's you got to do the gentle prodding, and other times you go in there and punch them in the face. That saying, go big or go home. I love my house. It's great here. That's good. I'm happy to hear that. And your house isn't in the middle of the street, is it? What did I just... Anyway. There we go. I know for a lot of people who may not be into this thing, I hope it wasn't a turnoff having this conversation, but I think it is an important one. If you're watching this channel, as much as I denigrate myself as I'm not a great model. I'm not, but this is basically a station built on modeling and chatting, right? So modeling is an important part of what we do here. I'm not gonna do this channel and have hey, I decided I'm going to get into welding now. That's not my thing. Or hey, I'm gonna start talking about movies. No, we'll talk about movies, but this isn't going to be a let's do a movie review channel. This is about talking about shit while I'm building a model or working on a model to even a higher level. It's always going to be focused on models. That's our house. Look at Freddie got it wrong and his horror plot. I love Freddie. It will organically change as older members are replaced by younger members. Yeah, and that's the same thing with anything. This Peter, this is why I've said this for the longest time. You can sit there and fight progress. Oh, we want to revert back to older values. This isn't about changing older values, but you have to understand things progress. Whether it's the what's going on in the world of politics, or whether it's what's going on in medicine, or whether it's something that's going on in scale modeling or IPMS shows, all of it's going to change. That's the way. I hate to put. I mean, at a very high level. That's why we only live for about 100 years, because we live and we move on. Then somebody else replaces us, and they get replaced by somebody else, and they get replaced by somebody else, right? You are welding when you're using... Oh, Peter, did you have to go there? Did you have to go there? Peter popping my balloon. Yeah, but you're 100% right. OMG. In the office, I'm shaking paint. Am I going to be able... Ooh, Joe's going to be doing some painting. But yeah, no. But things are going to change. You can fight it or not. It doesn't matter. You can fight it or not. That's I guess what I'm kind of getting at. That's you and there's fight. People are fighting for all sorts of stupid ass shit. Not to make it political. You can fight trans people as much as you want. You can fight, scale modeling and Gundam as a category, whatever it is. Guess what? It doesn't matter. You're going to age out. People are going to come in and they're going to be okay with this shit. Welcome to the way things work in the world. That's the way things work. That's called evolution. Good evening, Edwin. How are you, my friend? Happy Saturday to you. No, and guys, just so we're on the same page, I'm not making this a Thursday night event. I'm just saying progress is progress. It doesn't matter. Things are going to move forward. It's just the way things are. When things do not move forward, things stop. It's like a shark, right? My understanding from sharks is sharks are always swimming. That's how they live. That's how they breathe. Shark doesn't swim, it dies. Okay. Kind of sounding like Thursday, George. Yeah, I'm sorry to offend anybody's sensibilities. Not change is good, but dollars are better. Nice. Well, that will table for Thursday night. That will table for Thursday night. As much as, hey, Nick, and to your point, yes, I agree. I want to be cautious of it, but to your point, yes, at the same time, I kind of feel like, I'm on this side of the camera. I can do what I want. But yes, I'm not looking to go down the route of a political conversation. That's not it for today. But I think it's just an analogy. It's just an analogy, and just so you know, I've always felt this way. This isn't like a new thing. You so at some point I will not be. It's like you and Sanning. Exactly. I'm here for Saturday, George. Oh, well, I'm glad you're here for Saturday, and I'm here for Saturday too. I'm here to just talk. No, look, we are talking about tourney. But the point I'm trying to make is that at some point, things are going to change. At some point, I'm going to give up the reins of being a president of my local chapter. Why? Because there's going to be people going to come by who are going to have ideas and thoughts that are just, you know what? It's time for other people to lead. Hopefully somebody younger that'll take on the responsibility of doing something like that. Slept late, wake early. Electricity did not run on a section of my house. Oh, call the handyman who fixed it. Less than 1 minute. Then I got stung by electricity. Oh my. Edwin, getting zapped. That's not fun. You okay? All right, that's looking pretty clean. What's going to be interesting is, so last night as I'm working on this thing, so in theory, I should have just kind of built these two parts around this part here. But if you take a look, I've actually ground down the pegs because what I want to do is be able to just slip it into place. That way I can paint these things individually and then assemble them later. There. I'm going to do a test fitting in just a second because when I did this last night on one of the other parts, it actually starts separating it. There's just the tolerances are really tight, which is good, but that means I got to grind down those pegs quite a bit, but not to the point where they don't exist, because then there's nothing going to be holding it in place. I want to have just enough tension there to hold it all in place. All right, gonna have, yep. Fix that in a little bit. This one actually came out cleaner than the other one. Less cleanup required on this one. I'm okay, but this thing was indeed no fun, but the lack of sleep turned me into a drunk like... Oh, no. Uh-oh. Yeah, exactly. Glad you're okay, Edwin. Wow, Edwin. And hold it. Edwin, and you're awake now? I'm impressed. There we go. Right. Just woke from 2-hour nap. We'll sleep early tonight. Yeah. Almost there. Parts flying out of my hand. Everything flying out of my hand. There we go. Anyway, now having gone through a lot of the more in-depth conversations, guys, anybody got anything special going on today? Anything cool, fun? Richie said earlier that he's going to be working on his 2 kits. He's got his creative juices flowing. I love that. My goal today, if the weather holds, is to do a little bit of yard work. So I'm just trying to get this thing cleaned up a bit. Tiny trucking over in Northampton. Nice. Are you going solo? Or are you going with Katie? Or are you meeting other peoples? Just some sanding this morning, then grilling and enjoying beers in the pool. Don't go drowning there, Nick. Meeting a few people, including some Gundam converts. Really? Oh, see, Ray's is getting his claws into them. I think we may end up putting a little strip on the inside in here and filling. Done that before. Some of these models. Just to get that. Oops. Those two. All right, let's see what happens when we try to snap this thing in. Now that one went in easy. Got that one ground down well. Again, all I wanted to do was just be able to literally, I don't care if it flops around because I'm going to glue it in place into a statue. It only takes a teaspoon. It only takes a teaspoon, Nick. Be careful. As long as I can stand. Depends on how many beers you drink. It's too late for them. Purchases have been made. Yeah, so this one's actually pretty good. This is actually came out really nice. And again, it's a little floppy in there. I don't really care because once this is all done, I'm going to glue it in place. But if you see what I'm talking about, like right there, you see that notch in there where the 2 parts are coming together? That's not an atypical thing. What I'll probably end up doing is just putting in a little piece of a plastic strip in there. It'll fill that gap in a bit. I don't really care that you can see through it because given what I'm doing with this model, it's not designed to be that accurate. It's actually designed to kind of look a little cartoonish from what I'm trying to do with the little vignette. Hope everyone have a fun weekend. I will probably watch something tonight before sleep. Sounds good, Edwin. If you're bailing, have a lovely rest of your evening, my friend. Thank you for popping in, and I'm glad to hear you're okay. Well, if I drank that many, I won't even be able to get in the pool. I hope that is correct. All right, so we got that one. This one here I might grind down a little bit more. Now, this one's actually kind of slipping in pretty easy now. Of course, coming out's a little harder. There we go. Grind it down a little bit more. Just a smidge more. All right, let's see how that goes. In. Still kind of, it's actually not too bad. It's good enough. I'll keep it like that. There we go. Maybe you forgot, but I have 2 tiny humans to take care of, so never that many beers. That's good. No, I remember. I remember, Nick. Unfortunately, I also just it's a memory. I know that not somebody I knew personally, but I know up here we've had a situation like that, not too far from here, where somebody was incautious, shall we say, and they left a couple of orphan kids. So I've been cleaning the room a bit more. Okay, hey, we're still here. We're going to be here for another, I'm going to say 15, 20 minutes, and then I'm going to bail. Should have used the black to paint the inside. That's how the instructions show. Are you talking about on the, Joe, which model are you working on, by the way? Okay. The arms are now done. Now I got to work on the shoulders. I actually glued the shoulders together last night. The square shoulder. Again, what's interesting is looking at, like, the new ones are just so, these are just 2 parts, by the way. Well, 3 parts. But what's interesting is it's all one molded piece. Normally, this shell kind of rotates around the shoulder part, the armored spiky bit. But also looking at it, it's kind of ovalish more than round, right? It's kind of interesting. Anyway, I'm totally fine with that because, frankly, that is, I kind of, from my vision of what I want to do with this thing, this is actually spot on. The only thing I will do is once we get into a final position, that gap will be filled. Just got to get this thing kind of positioned where it needs to be. That's basically the part that kind of allows you to kind of get the shoulder where you need to be. Once I find the final setup, that will be gap filled. Painting a miniature. Got it. Nice. Okay, let's get shine blade. Put away some of the tools. A warlock tiefling. I have no idea what that is, but it sounds D&D-ish. May snap the Easy 8 later. Nice. Joe, are you solo today, or you got some family obligations later? I thought you mentioned something, but I could be wrong. I could be spacing out. All right. Coming out pretty good so far. That needs some cleanup. Sorry. Light just kind of hit in a weird way. What the hell is that? Oh, I see what that is. Let me remove that. Family party cleaning out the stone garden because we ain't got no lawn. I've got no lawn. Oh, man. I'm jealous. No lawn. Hey, Nick, I'm sanding. Doing a lot of heavy sanding right now, too. Love it. Me too. Take vacation this week on the week of Memorial Day. Hopefully, I can get a bunch of modeling in. I'd like to get the two things I'm working on into the primer stage if possible. That's cool, Peter. So, Peter, you're doing a staycation by the sound of things? Good for you. It's looking pretty clean. Putting a nice sharp line there. Good. Me too. Yeah, I'll be home. Half my team at work is out that week. So I figured I'd take it. Why not? Oh, what George said earlier, wise rapper said, things change, they don't stay the same. That's exactly it. Yeah. And well, that's just the nature of how life is. You know. Again, it's we typically put that, and I'm not looking to go down this route again. We typically wrap things up in in political terminology like progressive and conservative. And the answer is it doesn't matter. It's all evolution, my friends. Things evolve. Almost there. This didn't get squeezed nearly as well as I probably would have liked. That's okay. It is okay. Last one. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get this one angled area here done. Almost there. There we go. Now I'll square it. I'm not sure if I can actually, I haven't really played with it enough, but I can't see how, if one can see who is actually on. It's one thing you could do with Instagram, at least, that I thought was pretty cool. There we go. Put A clean. Put A. Not clean enough yet, but pretty clean. Oh, that's the same. Yep. All right, it's gonna hit a coffee. Got a little bit of gap filling to do there. And that may end up being just that I didn't apply enough glue. So what's also interesting is if you take a look at this arm here, notice how you got, again, this was supposed to clamp. This is supposed to clamp around this, right? But what I'm going to do is just going to break apart this piece. Just a lot to slide in. I would love, and I've mentioned this before, and in particular, when I was working on the Spartan, I would love to be able to talk with the people who created these original models. Like, what was the impetus for creating them? How much was it that we wanted to have a model specifically created for kids so that they can build a robot that they can go play with? Therefore, articulation, and at that time, particularly articulation and articulation was important because you're making a toy, and accuracy or leaving out certain details was less important, or was fine, because ultimately it's a kid's toy that you're making, right? I'd love to know if that were the case, or were they actually looking at it as, and this kind of comes full circle in some of our conversation from earlier, of was there thought about, I want to build, but we're looking to build the most accurate model based on the information that we have. And I think they would lean more towards the former than the latter. You know, it's just a model for kids. They can go play with these things. Oh, that was also the limitations of the manufacturing process at the time. Oh, yeah. But I also think that might be, Peter. But again, let's put it this way. If we think about like a boat as an example, it's a very static thing. or even if you're building a plane, unless you're getting the propeller to spin, it's a pretty static thing. You glue the flaps to where you want and you're done. Tanks, the same thing. You've got very little articulation of tank, how much the turret spins, but that doesn't necessarily impact its construction. Whereas with this, things like, in order to give this thing any kind of articulation to move the shoulder up and down, they had that. So again, the question I have is how much of this was based on, given that this thing is something that moved, and we want to give it that level of articulation, and we know what the target audience was. And maybe that's the question. Who was the target audience for this stuff? Was it kids, teenagers, or adults? And I'm not saying there's a right answer or a wrong answer. I'm not, trust me, this isn't a judgment call. I'm just kind of curious. I think mostly kids. I would probably say yes. I would say you are probably correct in that assumption. And therefore, if they're building it for a kid, accuracy was, or you didn't have to go out of your way to make something any more accurate or more realistic to what we saw there, or real world accuracy if you want to go there, because ultimately it's for a kid. Okay, so now we got this cleaned up. I'm going to hit this one area with some thin cement just because I don't think it's, the fingernail test is telling me not so much. The assumption is that kids would play with it. I wouldn't think that's the reason for articulate. I would think that's the reason. Yes, I would agree. Whereas you could have built something substantially more articulate, more detailed, if without any of these compromises, if you were building a statue. Yeah, I would not disagree. But you also have, in this case, you have a figure that was meant to, well, then again, other figures, I mean, I don't know. I don't know about, did they actually have like whatever the G.I. Joe equivalent might have been? Could you build a model of a G.I. Joe at the time? And was that articulate? I don't know. My dad called it action models. It was to blend them all. That's a good way of looking at it. One last part to sand, then I think the Pokemon is ready for price. Oh, nice. Nick, how did the scribing come out? Adult dudes posing these things was probably unexpected initially. I think so. I think from having read the men who created Gundam, I think that's what it's called. They have a brief section on models, and having read additional history, the show was intended for kids. It seemed to have been picked up by teenagers and a slightly older generation of people back in when it came out, 1979, 1980, particularly in 1980 when they started rediscovering it in reruns. They're like, "Oh my, this is not a kid's show per se." And I think that's when the modeling stuff came out, and it's like, yeah, these are not just meant, I want to build this thing as an older child or as a young adult. But again, I'd love to have more of an understanding of it. I'm fascinated by this. I really am. I think it was the blended kit with adult modeling as well as appealing and getting away from traditional action figures, possibly. But it actually is like a traditional action figure in its articulation, and not just Gundams. I mean, every like the Glouge is an example. When I did that, that thing was meant to be articulating pretty badly. Okay, gonna leave that there. Let that thing settle in place. Got 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to bail. I'm going to scribe in some lines now on this forearm that I worked on earlier. And I think this thing is pretty clean. This one actually, like I said, came out much, much better than the first one. Yeah, we're going to scribe these lines in. Go from there. I still had scribing to do. I want to make sure all the seams are filled and low spots level so it doesn't become an issue after scribing. Got it. Cool. Was show conceived as a vehicle to sell toys like A's G.I. Joe. All, generally speaking, all cartoons of that time were kind of like that. The difference was that this is the first show where they treated the mecha less like superheroes, like an action figure, and more like weapons of war, of which they then created the models for it. But yeah, I think let's be honest. I think it's gotten worse. If you follow any of the Gundam series, it's not like there's like 3 or 4 models. First of all, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and this is why I think that as much as I love Gundam as a storyline, and it's the stupidest thing. You're not going to have giant robots flying around. First of all, 20-meter tall giant robots, remarkably inefficient. The second thing is you can't have like, oh, we're making a one-off suit for this person or a one-off suit for that person. They did that for what they call it. The concept of having the robot of the week was to sell stuff, right? Because it makes 0 sense in the real world to have we're getting delivery of this new mobile suit and we're attacking these, or we get this other group that's created to have these unique mobile suits. It doesn't make sense, right? From a logistics perspective. Yeah, I'm sorry to apply real world theory on it, but they did it because they wanted to make toys. Is George's long way of answering Peter's question. Sell more toys. Now, what's interesting though is in the original Gundam series, you had a Zaku first generation, second generation, a Goof, and a Dom. And those were the primary suits you see. And on the Federation side, you had the balls, the GMs, which were created as a way of making a less expensive version of a Gundam. The Gundam, the gun tank, and the gun cannon were all prototypes. So that's kind of the series. And then, of course, you had the ball. Yeah, I did mention the ball. But the concept was that it was very much like, these are the suits we have. We're just like mass producing these suits. But I think as the series grew, it's like, okay, how do we sell more of these things? How do we sell more models? How do we sell more toys? And that's how they do it. Almost there. Oops, drifted a little bit there. Here we go. Do a little cleanup here. Almost there. And then, like I said, we're going to probably call it a session. There we go. Go a little deeper now. Yeah. There we go. All right. Got to run. Have a great weekend, guys. Peter, you too, man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll catch up soon. Time for me to roll as well, my friends. It is that time. Everybody, stay safe and stay sane. Thank you so much for being on. Good conversations today. Just I got to tell you, these are fun conversations. I love the philosophical stuff at the beginning. Just overall, just great way to start a day. Later, Nick. Guys, go out there and do good. Brighten the world as much as you possibly can. Getting nuttier and crazier by the moment. Let's see what we can do to make it better, not worse. Brighten somebody's day. Put a smile on somebody's face. Just make somebody's day better. All right. With that, I'll be back on tomorrow, same time, same channel. We'll see. Maybe I'll do some stuff on this today. Maybe not. If nothing else, we'll be working on it again tomorrow. Or maybe the dendrobium. We'll see. Anyway, guys, go do good. Enjoy. Love you all. And I'll catch you on the flip. Peace.